There are places on planet Earth that call to you, trying to draw you in like a siren, begging you for an answer to a question you don't know yet. This is one of those places. Here in Whiskeyland, we're faced with a dilemma, a question. Where the hell are we going? I don't mean just today, on this ferry, out in Lake Michigan. I mean, what's the big picture here? What's going on?
We're all wake up and think about us. We only hear the own voice in our head, right? The center of the world is what's in your head, and that's wrong. But there's no other way. You can't put yourself actually in somebody else's head, and it's not your responsibility necessarily. But you got to realize you're in a space with a whole bunch of other people that are looking at it from inside theirs. So in a battle of ideas and wills, it isn't about beating people. It's about being honest with yourself and trying to do a responsible thing and be a constructive part of whatever community you're in, however large that or small that might be. And do what you can with the resources you have. And if you have resources, then you're obligated to not get lazy and try to be helpful and certainly not harmful to people. And then people have all different kinds of versions of what that means. But you know when you're being honest with yourself.
We were brought to the island by this man, Chad Munger, co-founder of Mammoth Distillery. He has this magic ability to bring people together to new places with big ideas. And this time, he's brought together a superhero group of academics, politicians, farmers, and other whiskey makers to daydream and to build something that tells the story of how we are all interconnected, not just to one another, but also to the land that we share. And that story starts here, on the Michigan Rye Trail.
Okay, safety is everybody's business.
I just think this is a really exciting opportunity. You know, when I think about, the blue economy, the economic development impact, that an opportunity like growing rye could have, I think about communities like Westland, Inkster, even the city of Detroit, where there are parcels of vacant land and there are opportunities to reclaim this space, do something creative. And in these communities where communities are now taking part in ownership, of a space like this that becomes a tourism hub for their neighborhoods. I just think it's a tremendous opportunity. And really delighted that Chad was able to pull this together. Such a diverse, group of folks, that he's gathered here to, have this discussion about these opportunities. And I just think it's great. It's also about reclaiming history, and telling a story. I think about, the impact of Prohibition on some of these communities in and around, the Metro Detroit area. And what is that story? And how could that, be articulated, within a whiskey tour experience, as an interpretive, educational, experience for folks who would share that. So, that's really what I see.
So we find ourselves at the beginning of the Michigan Rye Trail as it plots its course. But at the heart of the story is agriculture. There is a belief that better grains make better whiskey. The world's grain market is shifting, and there is an opportunity to grow heirloom grains in the Mitten State and support small family farms and rural communities across the state.
From my perspective, Michigan is known for making things. We've always been known for manufacturing, but like just making things. And I think rye is super versatile, so you can use it for all sorts of stuff. And I think that the Rye Trail in Michigan is going to not just be about rye whiskey, it's about the grain itself and how versatile that grain can be, and then how that translates into just bettering everybody. The metaphorical journey starts at the island and goes out from there, and I think the actual journey will start somewhere in southern Michigan with the farmers and the people that we work with, and it will draw them into Michigan, and then you can travel up the larger peninsula that is the state to experience more and more stuff. So hopefully the Rye Trail will circumnavigate the state. It'll be all over the place.
Mammoth Distilling is leading the way with their Rose and Rye project, farming right out here on the island. But this is just one example, and the heirloom grain idea is expanding in many ways, allowing for a trail that will be as diverse as it is robust. But they need help.
I am really interested in this project because of the truly Michigan story. I'm a kid who grew up on a farm. I really love hearing about agriculture, and it's such an important part of Michigan's history and Michigan's economy. So it's really fun for me to see the history here on this unique and beautiful spot, and the role that it plays in creating a product today that is something that so many people enjoy. So it's been really fun to hear about the families, the names, the people who were here 100 years ago, or, starting tilling this land by hand, growing a unique and prized grain. And for us to be able to use that grain itself to find the original seed, to make it part of something that could be something that so many people enjoy, right? But also something that could be a really great part of our ag economy here in Michigan. That is a really difficult industry to keep your head above water in, especially as a small farmer. And so many other ag industries are like that, where they're becoming just these massive operations that are really difficult for family farmers and for sort of typical Michiganders. And that's so much what our ag history is. I have to admit that there's part of me that wishes I was here 100 years ago, like trying to make a go of it. There's part of me that grew up reading all those Little House on the Prairie books and thinking I was born in the wrong century. But it's just a really, really neat thing that just is a thread that connects Michiganders throughout history.
Look, you have Democrats and Republicans here today that understand the importance of this project and what it brings to the state in terms of tourism and other investments. And so I think it really is unique and really special. I would love for everybody to see what's going on here and the importance of it to the state of Michigan. But ultimately, I think as legislators, we need to support things like this that diversify our economy, that bring more tourism to the state, which is something that I think is critically important, and help us grow in other areas.
The marketplace here has like a international impact because grain historically, obviously grown in the grain belts, Ukraine, that part of the world. And now we have a chance to say like, hey, it's actually an American thing that we can do.
Yeah. If you think of most folks who are drinking whiskey today and the bourbon craze, right, if they really knew where most of the rye that they were making that whiskey with came from, I think they'd be, it's a little disappointing, right? The idea that I mean, we have a true history in this here, and we can bring that back and supply other producers across the country. That's exciting. That's pretty incredible, and it's happening right here in Michigan. Well, it has to be, and it has to be made here, right, in order to be bourbon. But it's not being made with our grains from here, right? And that's.
Oh, great, yeah.
I don't think that's actually that well known. I think most people assume that it is, and so this is part of that education. I think is showing people that what occurred here, how it used to happen, and how we can do it again.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But as you can see here, logistics in this place are pretty difficult. So it takes a special person like Chad and his team to even want to do something like this. This is not easy.
He's right. It's not easy. And I think that's the point, because sometimes the hard thing is the right thing to do. The team at Mammoth Distilling spends weeks at a time camping out here, just to grow rose and rye, because revitalizing heirloom grains on this remote island farm is a point of historical context, socially conscious farming practices, and frankly, it's also cool as hell. I mean, Chad chartered a ferry and several tractor wagons just to show some of Michigan's movers and shakers how important their seat at the table can really be. Not to mention, he not only invited, but insisted that two brothers with a whiskey habit, who have no business rubbing elbows with this level of power brokers, had a chance to bear witness to the power of this land as well. And it's not just the land that has something to say, but it's the lake that has stories too. Before leaving the island, we met this dude.
We're storytellers at heart. So we tell stories so you can hear history, but pretty soon you're going to be able to taste history. So back in the 1800s, this was a main transportation route from New York to Chicago, basically, for goods and passengers. So if this were the 1870s, we could probably see 100 sailing vessels and steamers right now in this area. That was our highway system. We didn't have roads, we didn't have automobiles. The train system was inadequate in the mid 1800s. So most product and people came across in boats. Found a shipwreck about 20 miles that way. If we could empty the water, we could see it, and it supposedly had gold and whiskey on it. So that I find interesting. I don't know which one I like more, the gold or the whiskey, but I guess if you get the gold, you can buy a lot of whiskey. And there is a chance that, I don't understand the science of it, but if there's a small percentage of that whiskey in the casks, they are able to take that and create a whiskey that would be the same as 1854 when the ship sank. Michigan says they own the shipwrecks, and that's fine. I err on the side of conservatism and taking care of the shipwrecks and the artifacts. But I think we're going to lose so many just to time right now that we need to start looking at changing the culture to start recovering some of these things and figure out the best way to do it and what's best for us as a united people, as a public.
As we began our voyage to the mainland, it wasn't lost on me that though I've come to the shores of Lake Michigan all of my life, I had never actually gone that far out. As a part of our family reunion, a promise that we make towards one another to maintain the traditions of those ancestors that came before, we would always visit Fishtown, our maiden port, and it is filled to the brim with my childhood memories. This place, the land and the lake, mean something to me. Something more than just whiskey. It connects me to a deeper sense of self, my inner child. As a kid, I used to watch the big boats make their way through the harbor and out towards adventure, daydreaming about what legends the magical South Manitou Island held. And now, I'm a part of that history. I've had my own maiden voyage. Now, technically, the Michigan Rye Trail won't necessarily begin on the island, but the island embodies its spirit in more ways than one.
The story has to be told. It is difficult out here, and it is hard, but that's also the American spirit, right? To be like, hey, there's this island. And far on the island, we're going to grow this amazing thing. And I've tried the rye from here that was a month old in the barrel, and it was incredible.
The bar always gets set, right? And then somebody's always trying to meet that bar. And if somebody's making a better product,
Yeah.
people are going to want to try to get there. And
Yeah.
that's going to take us growing more of this here in Michigan,
Yeah.
which creates a huge amount of economic value.
Yeah.
I really have a very strong sense that people deserve to have honest, hardworking leaders representing them in the state legislature and every public office. And it's become increasingly clear to me how much impact state legislatures can have on your daily life. Just about every aspect of life is touched by the decisions made in your state houses. And so for me to serve as Senate Majority Leader after starting at a write-in campaign when I was not ever expecting to go into politics, to finally be in a position where I can make some decisions to get things done, to provide that honest, hardworking representation that I truly believe people deserve and don't get often enough, has just been an incredible journey. And to be part of things like this, and so many other things that there's just a great story behind that I get to be part of, seeing these things come to fruition for the good of our state is very, very rewarding.
The more you get to know about other places, the closer it draws you to your own place, to where you're from. So there's a great sense of pride in being from, Detroit and being from Michigan, and having the opportunity to share in the storytelling and sharing my experience, of home, with the world, I think is special and unique. And there's a great sense of responsibility that comes along with that too, to make sure that storytelling is authentic and rich and real. It's a delight.
And the next day, we were back at what is becoming one of my very favorite places, Mammoth's Alcohol Factory. This time, Holland was tasting us on their new Northern Rye No. 3, a unique blend of their own juice with Canadian whiskey and some narratively significant finishes.
So it's a blend of our woolly rye, which is kind of an American style rye, and then 17, 18, 16, and 15-year Canadian ryes finished in various barrels and blended. The cool part about this one, we took our inspiration from the cherry industry here in northern Michigan. And we didn't want to go too simple with it, where we just put cherries into whiskey, and that was kind of the thing. So we used kind of everything but the cherry. So we aged part of it on cherry wood staves, which are like super high in wood sugar and vanillin, but they're also very tannic. So really quick turnaround time on that. It's like 9 to 12 days. You have to like start tasting it at like 9 days because it can go really fast. And then we also aged a really small portion of it on cherry blossoms, which, believe it or not, did add some aromatics. And then we also finished some in some cherry brandy barrels that we made too. So it's kind of like cherry wood, cherry blossoms, cherry brandy, which was made from the fruit, but not a direct fruit input kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
and those are all made separately and then blended together?
All made separately and then, yeah, either finished or blended into this kind of thing.
I just love what you guys do.
We love what you guys do too. But
Love how good you are at it.
right now, all the cherry orchards are getting pushed out, right, for development or other things, right? And so there's all this cherry wood around, and I thought it would be a cool idea to do, like, take a farmer's last harvest, right, and then turn that into brandy, and then take their wood, their cherry wood, and season it, and then use that to make staves or barrels or something, and do this like whole thing, right, that totally encapsulates that like farm's last year. But it even goes beyond that, because that wood was like the whole life length of the tree, right? Mm-hmm. So it's kind of this like full encapsulation of like what that really specific small plot of, let's like terroir to the like as close as you can zoom in. It like reflects that like all these orchards are getting pushed out, right? You know what I mean? But then at the same time, I guess, you know, you have cherry blossom, which kind of like represents new growth too. But yeah, it's a little bit of a sad story to me of like cherries are kind of going away in this area. And kind of now is our chance to try and, you know, encapsulate that really.
This is precisely why we love Colin, both as a distiller and a whiskey poet. He is from a multi-generational farm family and distinctly understands the changing landscape. Much like the Rose and Rye project, the Northern Rye carries with it an authentic story about a fading history, a changing of the guard. Is it a sad story in the glass? Perhaps a little. But it's also one of immense hope, that a sip of this whiskey story has the potential to carry the torch, to hold the memories of a place, to honor the farmers who saw a future that has come and passed. So what comes next? Well, no one has a crystal ball, but Chad and everyone coming together to bring the Michigan Rye Trail into existence believe that they can at least draw a map to lead us there. And that's a journey I can't wait to take. And until then, I'm happy to be right here in my other new favorite place, the end of a dock facing Torch Lake, just a few miles from the alcohol factory. Rye whiskey still vibrating in my soul, watching the sunset, knowing something very special is on its way.